Part 149. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1484. Girls' Literature. Jia Yan had already moved his legs and feet, and suddenly struck the man's direction with a direct blow. So fast the bald man was shocked when he saw the speed of Jia Yan's attack, and then he quickly turned back. Jia Yan's front foot pierced the place where the bald man had been. The sharp foot suddenly penetrated the ground half a foot deep. "Where are you, a creature from? Why did I not feel any tau fluctuations when you attacked?" The bald man seemed to see something he couldn't believe after being hit by Jia Yan. "Or, you just looked down on me and deliberately didn't use tau? And you can have such speed and strength without using tau, you?" The bald man guessed for himself, and his demeanor changed instantly. He made random guesses, and suddenly felt that the flying creature in front of him seemed to be a very powerful existence. But what he didn't understand at all was that this flying creature didn't even know what tau was. "I'm not looking down on you, it's just that I don't know what you mean." "Your Excellency, this is a big deal. Don't you want to pass my third level without using tau?" The bald man's face suddenly changed. Because he knew that as the guardian of the third level, he was carelessly controlling the juniors who entered the back. He did not really want to stop everyone, otherwise no one would be able to pass. But this external being who came had unknown strength and even had such an attitude of looking down on him. This bald man felt humiliated by Jia Yan. "I'm not looking down on you, but if that's what you think, then let's do it." Jia Yan was also helpless. After all, for him, it was not that he looked down on anyone, but there was nothing he could do if this man insisted on speaking like this. The important thing is that Jia Yan felt that he was not invincible against this man even without the tau he spoke of. So he seemed a little aggressive. After all, in the world of the strong, sometimes strength speaks for itself. "Haha, you look down on me. Then try to see if you can pass me without using the tau." The bald man laughed and said this seemingly angrily. But anyone with a discerning eye can see that he actually used these words to block the possibility of using tau to the flying creature in front of him. As long as the other party is not really hostile, he is really embarrassed to use tau now. Yes. But he had no idea that it would be better if he said it this way. Jia Yan would never be able to use tau. "Can't I pass? Then let's try." Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then he moved. The voice he used was the power of brain waves. He had been thinking about the relationship between this world and the previous universe. At least he had thought about many possibilities based on the fact that he could use the power of brain waves to speak. At this moment, he was trying to see if he could find a new way to help him fight with the power of brainwaves. At this moment, it was the first time he used the method he thought of. I saw Jia Yan completely attaching his brainwave power to the surface of his body. When the bald man saw Jia Yan, he rushed forward like this, but no matter how he restrained him, he didn't think that this creature with a slender body, legs and feet would be a strong physical combatant. "Are you looking down on me? I am one of the more powerful physical warriors in this race. You are actually competing with me in physical combat. This is too big a deal." He felt a burst of anger rising in his expression, but the anger turned back to anger, but joy flashed in his eyes. If the opponent uses other fighting methods to fight with him, the bald man probably doesn't know much about it, but now the opponent actually uses his own body to fight, which makes the bald man feel that the opponent is seeking his own death. Actually fighting against his strongest side. Die. He punched suddenly. All I saw was a burst of air. If this punch were placed in the outside universe, it would probably cause great damage. A small interstellar matter might be exploded by one punch. But here, apart from the explosion of air, there is no other effect. Even if it can break a small stone, it is probably very difficult and even hurts my own hands. Of course, even though it looked ordinary, there was absolutely no way Jia Yan would let him hit her body casually. He instantly used his brainwave power to move his body to the side along with the force of the opponent's attack. What kind of power is this? The bald man was startled. Because he felt that the flying creature in front of him actually dodged a blow that he was bound to hit in an instant. Even if he had already guessed that the opponent was so powerful, there must be a way to avoid his first blow. But this method of evasion is too surprising. You must know that although he did not use all his strength with this punch, it was still more than half of his strength. It's really powerful, and he still doesn't use the power of Tao. This is very scary. No wonder he would fight me in close combat. It turns out that his movement skills are extremely weird. The bald man instantly had a higher opinion of Jia Yan. His fist swiped again. Jia Yan, who was in front of him, had just felt satisfied with the new use of his brainwave power, but before he could feel satisfied, the man actually punched him again. He had no choice but to hide. In fact, the opponent's physical body was probably difficult to defeat before Jia Yan used Azure Defense, so Jia Yan didn't even want to fight him. After all, Jia Yan is not really proficient in melee combat. His strength has always been his subspace talent, or the ability to simulate some of his own special abilities through brainwave power. Now cutting off his brainwave power and subspace talent is like cutting off his two sharpest claws. This leaves Jia Yan with nowhere to use his power. He can't even use his moves, so he has to use close quarters way of fighting. This was helpless, and the bald man saw it right. Jia Yan was indeed not good at close combat, but if he wasn't good at it, there was nothing he could do. The two sides were like this: the other side was using all his strength, while Jia Yan seemed to be fighting around him without using all his strength. His brainwave power is loaded into every part of his body. In such a battle, he can use the help of brainwave power to a certain extent. The man felt deeply frightened, because when he started the close combat with Jia Yan, he felt that he was suppressing this mysterious flying creature. But as he continued to fight, he noticed that this creature was slowly getting stronger. Even the magnitude of this increase exceeded his imagination. This does not mean that the opponent can become stronger in this moment, but that by fighting slowly, this creature shows the strength he should have. And what frightened him even more was that even now, his strength still didn't contain even the slightest bit of Tao in it. This simply made him feel suffocated. Without using the power of Tao, he could cause such a full-scale confrontation. What if the other party used his own Tao? He couldn't even imagine this kind of strength. On the other side of him, Jia Yan was slightly happy. Because when he used the power of brainwaves on his body, he felt that his brainwave power was not unavailable, but could be used on certain parts of his body, but his sense of strength was lower than when he was in the outside world. Dropped a lot. Perhaps being able to use the power of brainwaves is his greatest joy. Therefore, during this period of time, Jia Yan's strength seemed to have improved by leaps and bounds, reaching a level that even this bald man could not cope with. Puff. When a front foot was printed on the body of the bald man, he suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood, flew up, directly hit the top of the tree house, and then fell to the ground. He fell instantly. Lost combat effectiveness. Ahem, you win. The bald man's face looked unbelievable for a while, and he staggered up from the ground. As everyone knows, his appearance of nothing happened also made Jia Yan stunned for a while, because he really felt that the man was fine, and he had actually used all the brainwave power he could use now, that is, to shoot he was able to hit with all his strength now, but he still couldn't do any harm to this man. This made Jia Yan even more wary of the great elder who had not shown up yet. What he didn't know was that when he struck with his front foot, injuring the bald man, at the top of the tree house, the face of the elderly man with grey beard and hair suddenly changed. Well, this fellow Taoist is actually about the same strength as me. He can defeat Lao Sen without using Tao, but I am only at this level without using Tao. Since my strength is about the same, it's worth going over to greet you personally. After the great elder's expression changed slightly, he no longer dared to underestimate the powerful men coming from the outside world. He personally walked out of the hut at the top and walked directly down. As for Jia Yan, he passed all the assessments. That is to say, you have succeeded in taking the road. Among the people behind, the fastest ones probably didn't even get past the second level. Okay, you can go find the Great Elder by yourself, but I guess the Great Elder has to wait for others to come together and won't explain it to you alone. The bald man rubbed the area injured by Jia Yan's blow, his face looking very ugly. After all, as a being who can guard the gates, he is extremely confident in his own strength. He even believes that in this race, apart from the Great Elder and the other two top masters, he is the only one who is more powerful. But what happened now was that he was slapped naked in the face, which made him look extremely ugly and made him feel deeply humiliated. Of course, there is nothing you can do if you lose face. This world is still the same as the outside universe, that is, they all respect the strong. At least no one dares to face a being who has defeated them. What nonsense! Talk nonsense! Being killed was something you asked for. Of course, he wouldn't have a good look on Jia Yan. Anyway, in his opinion, no matter how strong this coming creature was, he couldn't possibly be as strong as the Great Elder. So what he said just now was to express his disdain for Jia Yan. Mistress, you can't be so rude to your distinguished guest. This friend is a powerful man with the same level of strength as me. The Great Elder's cold snort suddenly sounded in the tree house. Great Elder. Seeing an old man with a grey beard appear, the bald man's expression changed wildly, and he quickly lowered his head. On the other side, Jia Yan was actually startled by the sudden appearance of the so-called Great Elder. Because even he didn't know how this Great Elder appeared. So at this moment, several thoughts flashed through his mind. Of course, his expression remained calm. Because he didn't know how powerful this Great Elder was, even if he used his trump card, whether he could defeat him or not was unknown to Shiyuan, so at this moment, Jia Yan had no further feelings for him. Disdainful thoughts. My friend, you have come a long way, and I am disappointed to meet you from afar. The elder, with his grey beard, actually looked like an ordinary old man. When he came to Jia Yan, he gave Jia Yan respectful fists. I am the one who suddenly interrupted and brought trouble to the noble race. In fact, I have nothing to do. I just heard that there is such a grand event here and came to take a look. I hope I didn't bring you any trouble. Jia Yan's thoughts were spinning, and he quickly said some polite words to this old man-like creature. Both sides are on guard. Jia Yan had calculated and felt that there was still a slight gap between his own strength and the opponent's, but the opponent had completely misunderstood, thinking that Jia Yan didn't use that Tao, but he was actually hiding his true strength. It is probably the same as this Great Elder. So at this moment, both sides have concerns, but on the surface they show a sense of peace. Jia Yan let out a long sigh of relief. Judging from the Great Elder's attitude, he also guessed a bit. No matter what people think now, Jia Yan does not want to fight, but wants to see what the so-called Tao in this world is. Oh! Your Excellency, Jia Yan is also interested in my Tao. But you must know that the explanations of the Tao that I teach to the juniors here are only the basics. If Mr. Jia Yan wants to have a formal exchange, why not invite a few friends later? How about holding a joint research meeting recently? The bearded elder was surprised that Jia Yan actually wanted to hear him speak the Tao. After all, the Tao he would talk about to the juniors would definitely not be something advanced, and yet this creature that he had never seen before would actually want to listen to such a rudimentary explanation from him. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1485. Could it be that he wanted to test himself? Faintly, the Great Elder thought too much. But Jia Yan is different. Of course he is determined to listen to the basics. It's okay, Your Majesty the Great Elder, I just want to hear your explanation of the basics, because I always feel that the basics are the cornerstone of our cultivation. It is definitely right to listen to more people's explanations, and maybe I will make inferences. What Jia Yan said was not abnormal, so the Great Elder nodded without any doubt. Just listen, what else can be learned from an elementary explanation? He had no idea that Jia Yan had planned to learn secretly. Jia Yan feels that it is necessary to listen to the so-called Tao of this world. After all, through the translation of his brainwave power, he felt that what this was actually somewhat similar to what he had heard in novels on Earth, so he thought what such a mysterious thing would be like. And he was very curious whether it would help his own strength to a certain extent. Since you want to listen, then listen. After all, I have never said that outsiders cannot listen, and I have never said that strong people from the outside cannot get anything from me. But, while the Great Elder was speaking, there was a sudden burst of strange looks. Since you want to listen to my sermon, you can't say it. I won't gain anything. After all, for us strong people, giving to each other is the principle for everyone. Since you want to listen to my teaching, then there should be no objection to some of your things, such as your knowledge or understanding of martial arts. Jia Yan was suddenly startled when he heard what the Great Elder said here. What the Great Elder said is right, but what you have shown is only the basics. I can't give you powerful moves or tips. Jia Yan was slightly shocked, but he didn't feel anything strange in his mouth. He just said that the deal was not fair. What insights do you want him to take? This is simply impossible, because Jia Yan is not from this world at all. If he really uses his battles in the outside world to gain insights, is it worth mentioning? Maybe the other party will see his heel. This will be very important to Jia Yan. As far as Yan is concerned, it will never be done. But when Jia Yan said this, the Great Elder shook his head. That's wrong, Your Excellency. I don't want anything else. I only need you to do one thing for me. Then give me a blow. He said. Jia Yan was stunned and struck. Generally speaking, this is indeed not an excessive request. After all, among the strong men, he has listened to the opponent's explanation, so hitting the opponent with a blow is simply a small request. And since it was said peacefully, both sides would definitely not use their full strength in this attack, and Jia Yan would not be in any danger. But that was under normal circumstances, but now Jia Yan didn't dare to complete the deal with him. Even if you ask him to explain the Tao, it will be easier for the other party to see it. After all, when he strikes, he must expose something, so that the opponent can easily know that his strength or the feeling of fighting is completely different from the strong ones here. He must come from a place they have never been to. Hey, no, haven't you heard of it before? This world is also very huge. Even on a small surface, I don't know how vast it is. So let me say that I come from a very far away place. The elders won't know anything. Jia Yan thought about this place, pretended to ponder for a while, and then nodded. Well, Great Elder, I told you beforehand that the place I come from may be farther than you think. Maybe you haven't seen my fighting style, so if you see anything then, I hope you won't do it either surprised. In short, I don't have any bad intentions towards the nobles, I just came here to make friends. Jia Yan first explained the difference in his strength to the Great Elder. In this case, when he saw something different later, he probably wouldn't suspect Jia Yan at the first time. Haha, okay, in our world, there are countless ways to practice fighting, so even if you use some moves that I don't know about, it won't be surprising. The Great Elder smiled slightly and seemed to accept Jia Yan's words. Okay, come on then. Jia Yan knew that his strength, at least in this state, might still be far behind that of the Great Elder, so he immediately activated his brainwave power. It's a pity that the brainwave power cannot leave the body, so he cannot fight the Great Elder from a distance. What a ferocious will to fight. You actually have such a terrifying will to fight. It seems that you are not borrowing it from an unknown person. The Great Elder originally just wanted to see how strong Jia Yan was, but when he felt the sense of fighting will that Jia Yan released at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. For this Great Elder, it was not just once or twice that he saw outsiders like Jia Yan. Even before, when he saw outside masters, he had the habit of directly killing them. In fact, his strength is equivalent to an invincible existence at his own level. He has been in the outside world for a long time. He just sees his hometown and rests for a few years. When he has the energy in the future, he will go out and continue to challenge the world's strongest. That's all. When he saw Jia Yan today, he felt that the alien being who came seemed to be very unusual, but he couldn't tell what was unusual about him, so he wanted to try his skills with the opponent. With one blow, if the opponent he felt like he could figure out what was truly powerful. The two parties went to a relatively remote place where a giant tree branches. Your Excellency, I don't know what I should call you. When they arrived here, both sides stood still, and the white-haired old man had time to ask Jia Yan his name. Jia Yan. Anyway, his name has been told to Wu Pilot and Wu Pilot a long time ago, and it doesn't matter if he says it now. Jia Yan simply told the whole story. Jia Yan, I am Bai Dili, remember? Jia Yan nodded, indicating that he remembered. In fact, Bai Dili was also looking at Jia Yan's demeanor and was slightly surprised when he saw that he didn't feel anything after hearing his name. You know, Bai Dili's reputation is extremely famous in the nearest forest land. In this forest, apart from the presence of a few kings, his strength is the most terrifying. Therefore, when outsiders come to this forest, they must someone else told them not to offend a domineering person like themselves. But this alien being seemed to not care much about his name. This is either because Jia Yan really doesn't understand his name, or he has heard of it but is not afraid of his name. Belgium chose to believe in the second possibility. Because for the strong man who came to this forest, how could no one tell him his name? He didn't quite believe it. In this world, if you go to a place and don't first understand the strength and name of the strong people there, you will be like a headless fly wandering around to die. At least no one dares to be so bold before reaching a truly extremely powerful state. Okay, come on, if you can fight me to a draw with this blow, then in addition to explaining to you the Tao that children learn, I will also tell you my unique explanations of some Tao. And if you don't come down, I'm so sorry. You can't even listen to the sermons that the children listen to, so how about this? Bai Dili said this to Jia Yan. After all, you still don't want me to listen, right? Haha, then let's give it a try. I want to see how powerful you, the elder of the clan, are. Jia Yan's expression turned cold slightly, and then he took a defensive stance. He didn't really think that he could fight the opponent, but at this moment, he was confident in his azure defense. Azure defense does not seem to be suppressed in this world, so Jia Yan feels that just by relying on defense alone, his strength is much higher than the level he is currently showing. Especially when he first arrived in this world, he could block the bat's attack with his blue defense. This was like a shot in the arm for Jia Yan, making him understand that his strength lies in this world. Although the world has weakened, it still has a trump card that will not be suppressed. There is a turtle shell that cannot be broken. Anyone who fights with him will cry. Of course, Jia Yan was not completely looking down on others. Even at this moment, he thought that he needed to be careful. Even if the great elder in front of him did not have the power to break through his blue defense, there was definitely a possibility of hurting him. This great elder is estimated to have the strength of an ordinary mid-level star existence in the outside universe, but this is a bit strange. His strength is one level higher than that of Wu Pilot and others. Why is it like this? Like an elder who is much more powerful? Could it be that the power gap between levels in this world is greater than I imagined? Jia Yan was thinking in his mind. However, his thinking did not last long. When both parties stood still and finished speaking, the great elder smiled slightly when he saw Jia Yan put on a defensive posture, and then he charged directly. Between truly strong men, there is absolutely no need for prior ventilation when fighting. If you have to ventilate the enemy in every battle, how can you be called a strong person? It would be easier to let the enemy directly tell you where to attack with each move. And Jia Yan didn't think that the other party had done anything wrong. But when it attacked, my heart tightened slightly. So fast. Jia Yan felt extremely fast towards the approaching elder. This speed is already considered the peak level of strength when he cannot enter the subspace state. It seems that under normal circumstances, Jia Yan is still not as powerful as his opponent. Puff. The great elder didn't give Jia Yan much time to be stunned, and directly punched him. This move is called Dao Barbarian Fist. It embodies my understanding of Dao. It was originally an incomplete move that I just researched, and its power is only average. However, you are the first to get the taste of it. Why? So, be honored. When the great elder attacked, he also spoke quickly with a power similar to but not very similar to brainwave power. While he was speaking, Jia Yan only felt the power of his punch suddenly doubled in strength. What is this? Why can the attack power be increased? Jia Yan felt that his expression was completely attracted by this punch attack. You must know that as a mid-level star powerhouse in the outside world, Jia Yan is well informed in the outside world. He has fought several battles even with the existence of the God Emperor. But he has never seen anyone who can use his moves to such an extent. At this moment, he suddenly understood why the great elder's aura that he had felt just now was only around the middle level of a star, but there was such a huge difference in identity and status between Wu Pilot and Wu Pilot. Without him, the mid-level star in this world is not the middle-level star in the outside world at all, but belongs here alone. It looks like a mid-level star, but in actual combat, the burst of combat power and explosive strength are completely unmatched by the outside world. When Jia Yan faced the energy in front of him, the shock in his eyes was completely unblockable. What exactly is this? What exactly is this? Jia Yan was completely shocked, and there are no evasive or blocking actions. It's not that he is unwilling to do it, but that at this moment, his strength is completely suppressed by the other party, or should not be said to be suppressed, but some kind of mysterious feeling. Locking. That's right, it's a lock. Jia Yan has never felt this feeling before. The old man who suddenly burst out in strength actually looked like a Xian. His strength suddenly increased a lot. The strength of this attack now actually surpassed him. The three God Emperors who had confronted each other before. This is amazing. Huh, the approaching elder frowned slightly when the attack was about to reach Jia Yan's side. Then, he restrained his attack a little, and struck Jia Yan's body lightly with one punch. Facing this blow, Jia Yan just felt a small boat in the stormy waves, and the instantaneous power spread throughout his body. Jia Yan's strength is that of a mid-level star, but it has still declined to a certain extent in this world. His current strength is estimated to be that of an ordinary mid-level star at most. But the opponent's strength that exploded at this moment completely exceeded that of the mid-level star, and even the lower-level ones were faintly about to surpass it. And this was despite the fact that it was obviously holding back. I wonder, can Jia Yan escape? However, even if Jia Yan couldn't avoid it, he still had that blue defense, and even at this moment, the power of the reaction cells in his body worked together, completely making a contribution. Bang! This moment, the azure defense in Jia Yan's body was like a flood that burst the embankment, and coupled with the reactionary material power, it was as if he had sensed a great crisis in the outside world, and both of them suddenly came out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1486. The strength of this strong man was so terrifying that at this moment, Jia Yan's body automatically used his absolute pressure. And just after he punched Jia Yan away, Jia Yan's body seemed to have changed in an instant. It has become extremely blue, and its hardness and defense have reached the highest peak that Jia Yan's body can reach now. Then there was a force of antimatter, which violently exploded every foot tissue in his body to resist this simple blow. The great elder narrowed his eyes slightly, and then he felt that his attack was counterattacked hard by the resistance of the flying creature in front of him. His punch only made Jia Yan retreat a little distance. It's amazing. Although you retreated and seemed to be struggling a bit, I'm probably older than you and can't win. I'll count you as the winner this time. As the great elder spoke these words, he seemed to be less afraid of Jia Yanmen. Because he has already felt that this creature does not seem to use his own power, but it seems that he does. Then there are two reasons why it cannot be used. One is that it is inconvenient to use, such as being injured or something else. Another point is that Jia Yan doesn't want to fight him, so in this case, he doesn't need to worry too much about Jia Yan. In short, if you can hit him, even if it is weak, it is not that weak, and it is worthy of his careful treatment. On Jia Yan's side, after hearing the strong man's words, his eyes flashed for a while, and then he nodded lightly. To be honest, Jia Yan was extremely satisfied to be able to block a blow in front of such a creature. It's just that from such a strong man, I heard that he didn't recognize his own strength very much. This made Jia Yan's usual compliments to outsiders not very serious, but in fact, he was not very serious about his praises to those who were stronger than him. His attitude is considered to be more caring, and his self-esteem is almost bursting. If the great elder had used his strength to knock him back a few steps, Jia Yan wouldn't feel so depressed even if he thought he had lost. But the current situation is that he has kept his hand. However, Jia Yan still used a relatively powerful trump card to avoid losing face. Fortunately, the great elder didn't seem to notice that a small piece of Jia Yan's foot was missing. Of course, even if he saw it, he wouldn't think that it was this small piece of lost material that helped him block the previous attack. This small battle allowed the two strong men to test each other out, and also allowed them to gain a certain understanding of their respective strengths. Of course, Jia Yan was becoming more and more frightened by the great elder's strength, and the other party probably did not regard Jia Yan as a weakling. At least Jia Yan is pretending well now, or other people's misunderstandings have helped him a lot. His true combat power is estimated to be killed by this great elder in one blow. Even if he is in full state, it may be the same. Great elder, this senior, have you finished fighting? Outside the tree hole where the two sides were fighting, Wu Pilot and Lu Ji came to the door at some unknown time and seemed to have been waiting for a long time. It turned out that they were still in the assessment, but they were called out by the bald assessment master, saying that there was something wrong with the person they brought. As a result, they were informed by others that the Jia they had brought was Yan, unexpectedly passed all the tests early, and now he is fighting with the great elder of his clan in this tree cave. This shocked them greatly. You must know that they have lived with Jia Yan for several days. Even Wu Pilot thought that Jia Yan's strength was not much different from hers. Even if he was strong, he was only a little stronger. Never thought that Jia Yan was powerful enough to fight against the great elder? This made both Wu Pilot and Lu Ji feel a little surprised. After all, they had a great responsibility in this situation. If Jia Yan really had any problems, then they would be in trouble. The two of them waited outside for a long time, and when they saw it, the great elder and the Jia Yan they brought came out intact. This left them at a loss. If this coming person was a strong man with a problem, Wouldn't the great elder arrest him? Is it because he is not strong enough to arrest? Of course, they don't know that the great elder of their family is not that kind of person, but the bigger reason is that Jia Yan's strength also poses a slight threat to the great elder, and the great elder who is unwilling to do anything unnecessary can also never mind. It's nothing to listen to an explanation of your Tao to others. Okay, you and this friend Jia Yan, establish a good relationship. I will start explaining now. You don't need to take the exam. You can just listen in later. The great elder seemed to be very kind to Wu Pilot and Lu Ji, and said this without any scolding. Your Excellency Jia, I'm going. The great elder signaled to Jia Yan again. Seeing how the elder respected Jia Yan so much, the two children were stunned for a while. In the general state of the great elder, even if he has a good temper, he would only behave like this towards outsiders of the same level as him. Could it be that this Jia Yan who had lived with them for a while was actually a strong man of equal strength to the great elder? This senior. Wu Pila didn't know what to say when she faced Jia Yan again, for fear of offending this strong man who must have concealed his strength before. Haha, Wu Pila, Lu Ji, the relationship between us is still the same as before. Don't get angry. Jia Yan's voice made the two human-like young people feel relieved. They were afraid that Jia Yan would be unhappy with them because they didn't know Jia Yan's strength all the way and felt a little rude. Fortunately, Jia Yan is as open-minded as the great elder. They all thought in their hearts whether to be strong, they must be open-minded. Otherwise, why would the great elder and Jia Yan have the same temperament? Of course they didn't know that Jia Yan was not open-minded, but that he simply couldn't lose his temper. Losing his temper in front of such a powerful elder, if it really led him to take action against him, it is estimated that Jia Yan's pretended master demeanor would be torn off in an instant, and he would die. So even if Jia Yan has a bad temper, he can only pretend now. The three of them were talking and laughing. Although their status had changed, the three of them were determined to maintain the same feelings as before. There was no barrier between them. They were laughing and talking, and followed the two of them to the bottom of the giant tree. A place like a big square. Here, there are already a group of human-like creatures standing around on this territory. Lord Jia Yan, you see, all the young people of our clan are here now. Except for a few stubborn ones who refuse to come, no one can really pass. Wu Pila said to Jia Yan. Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, and then looked at the children in the square. There were actually 300 to 500 children, and Wu Pila was considered an adult among them. Almost all of them were children in their teens or several years old. Okay, everyone, sit down. On the high platform of the square, the great elder has been waiting for a while. He specifically signaled to Jia Yan, then turned his head and explained to the group of children in front of him. Jia Yan's also quickly found a place. If he was only slightly interested in this so-called Tao before, now that he has truly seen the power of this thing, Jia Yan suddenly feels interested in this power. If he could learn it, his strength would probably double. Jia Long's arrival also attracted the attention of some children and adults further away. Isn't this alien brought by Wu Pila? Why does the great elder treat him well? I told you, this guy is actually not an ordinary creature. I heard just now that he and the great elder had a fight in the training tree house, and it turned out that there was no winner. There is no difference between victory and defeat with the great elder. This is awesome. Could it be that he is another top invincible strongman like the great elder? I don't know about this, but it seems that the great elder has kept his hand. Of course, no matter whether the great elder has kept his hand or not, he will not be something we can deal with, so if we see him again in the future, don't provoke him, that's it. Several adult human beings pointed at Jia Yan from the sidelines. Their conversation, without any prying eyes, was overheard by Jia Yan using brainwave power. Jia Yan discovered that his brainwave power was not useless in this world. At least when he heard the sounds from the outside world, others seemed unable to detect them. It's no wonder that for the creatures in this world, the power of brainwaves is just like he can't figure out things like Tao, and they don't understand it at all. It seems that I don't have any advantages here. It may even play a big role because of this unique brainwave power. After Jia Yan knew this, he felt slightly happy. However, he was not distracted for long. The great elder on the high platform had already begun to explain the Tao. The so-called Tao is a power that we don't understand but actually exists. At the same time, it can also be a spirit, and furthermore, it may be a law. There are thousands of understandings of Tao, and no one dares to say that his or her understanding of Tao is completely correct. But what I want to tell you now is my own understanding and explanation of Tao. If you can understand the superficial principles of it, you may be able to draw parallels and find your own path. The great elder's words kept ringing in the sky, and some of them even lingered faintly beside Jia Yan. It seemed that he had given Jia Yan special treatment because he had to fulfill his request completely after agreeing to it. What the great elder didn't know was that he thought Jia Yan would definitely feel that his explanation was too early, and even made him laugh. But when he turned in the direction of Jia Yan, he found that this creature, who should be quite strong, seemed to be listening thoughtfully to his explanation, and occasionally looked intoxicated. Jia Yan was of course fascinated. After all, after listening to it for a while, Jia Yan suddenly felt that it seemed to be similar to certain aspects of the laws of the universe. How can it be understood that my understanding of subspace is not as good as this great elder's? No, there is no subspace in this world, so how does he know about subspace? It is probably because of the understanding of Tao that the explanation of all things appeared. What kind of way is this? It's really powerful. The shock in Jia Yan's heart has never gone away. He always thought that the fighting rules he learned in the universe, or the insights he gained from fighting, would be the most terrifying and powerful technique in the entire universe. Even if there were other ways to practice, it would definitely not be possible. Too much beyond that. Even before that, he modified his own yin and yang system. To Jia Yan, this system was like his own personal masterpiece. Faintly, during the production process, he had some thoughts about himself. Thinking that they are all ranked first in the world. But here, he was extremely embarrassed to feel that the yin and yang system he created could actually be understood and comprehended in this way. This made Jia Yan suddenly understand. What is this Tao? The theory of this Tao is actually vague, contains many great principles, and is more advanced than many cultivation methods. It's just that it's just a principle, like a law. Even if you understand it, you won't gain much. Of course, if you really understand it, it will definitely be good for the future. For example, when you practice, you will have the direction and goal are not easy to go astray, just like a gang collar. The Taoist explanation for the scene was still like that of the great elder. A figure who was almost invincible at a certain level explained to Jia Yan. Jia Yan could be said to be fascinated by it. Okay, that's it for this time's Tao explanation. At a certain moment, when Jia Yan had been listening for about 2 days, the great elder's words suddenly stopped. Oh, it happened to be in an important place, but I got stuck. Jia Yan felt very sorry. How about it, Your Excellency Jia Yan, my ordinary explanation doesn't mean much for you, right? The great elder came to Jia Yan as soon as he got off the stage. In fact, during the 2 days of explanations, the great elder had been secretly observing Jia Yan, especially the way he was very interested in his explanation, which made the great elder very proud and satisfied. Generally speaking, Tao in this world is something that everyone has some concept of, but everyone's understanding is different. Another strong man with good strength actually had such a strong interest in his own understanding. Even a strong man like the great elder who had experienced a lot felt a little proud and happy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1487. Because he recognized, or in some respects, recognized Jia Yan's strength, as soon as he stepped down from the stage, the great elder came over to listen to Jia Yan's words and see whether he was good or not. Of course, Jia Yan could see his obvious idea. Even if there was really nothing to gain at this time, he would definitely say that there was. Besides, he really gained a lot. Your Excellency, Great Elder, I feel that your words are better than the annual book. Among the many powerful people I have met, your words are probably the ones that made me most empathize and improve me. Thank you very much. Jia Yan said very sincerely. That's it? Among the many strong men you see, my words don't mean anything. The elder was shocked. Jia Yan's hat was too high for him. What he said was indeed an ordinary understanding of Tao, and it was not in depth. Just like the expression Jia Yan put on just now was also seen by him. He knew that he was talking about some extremely important things. He deliberately stopped at the right place, which made Jia Yan feel very uncomfortable. But his explanation was actually called by Jia Yan as the first time he had heard such a good explanation, which was a bit too much. Jia Yan didn't know what he was thinking, but even if he knew, he wouldn't change his words. Because this is really the first time Jia Yan has heard such enlightening teachings since his debut. As for why this is the case, it's not that there are no powerful creatures outside the universe, it's just uniquely determined by Jia Yan's growth experience. This made Jia Yan, at this moment, listen to the words of the great elder, as if he had heard something from the Bible, and of course he would express his utmost affirmation of his words. Haha, thank you. Well, next time I have time, I will explain my views to Mr. Jia Yan alone. The great elder thought that Jia Yan wanted his teachings, but thought about it, if he just taught some less important knowledge, why not? He might really just want to refer to it. If he makes a friend, maybe in the future this is also a path. Thank you very much, Great Elder. Jia Yan's expression was slightly overjoyed. If he could get the Great Elder to continue to explain to him next time, and it was just an explanation that allowed him to ask questions, wouldn't he be able to hear better theories in the future? For Jia Yan, this kind of thing is a dream. Of course, he also thought about it. If he showed that he didn't understand anything during the next explanation, it would be easy for the other party to see the truth, so he also decided to give it to him before this period of time. Improve your own strength, especially your understanding of the so-called Tao, and observe and understand more, so that you are less likely to show your flaws. Next, the great elder didn't say much to Jia Yan. After all, he also had a lot of things to do. Jia Yan returned to Wu Pila. Anyway, he didn't have a place to live for the time being. After thinking about it, Jia Yan refused the great elder's request to arrange a new house to live in, and went to Wu Pila instead. Because he wanted to use his status as a senior to conduct more in-depth questions about Wu Pila, or even Luji. But before that, I want to study this way quickly while the memory is not erased. Jia Yan did not put the cart before the horse. As soon as he arrived at Wu Pila's house, he quickly went into retreat. His body is very huge in the outer space of the universe, but in this world, it is just that, so the space is very large. Tao, from what I've heard so much, is the law, and it's also the true face of the universe that is quietly revealed to living things. As long as you master a little bit of Tao principles and then practice or use the strength you understand to fight with others, your strength will improve by leaps and bounds. And this rapid increase in strength has something to do with the energy in the body, but it has nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter that much. Jia Yan has been thinking about his yin and yang system. He originally thought that his path had come to an end. Even though the yin and yang system had just started, it had actually come to an end. Jia Yan found that he had nothing new at all. After figuring out the routine, if we insist on continuing, The yin and yang system may collapse in this way, and even Jia Yan may be injured and die. But after hearing the Tao theory in the Institute today, he understood that his own strength and skills had great flaws, and the yin and yang system was not incapable of learning from other systems or cultivation techniques. And those things are exactly the Tao in this world. According to what I heard, this so-called Tao is actually still effective even in the outside world. Even some martial arts or fighting methods in the outside world may be understood from this so-called Tao. The more he studied it, the more Jia Yan felt extremely shocked by the Tao he had mastered. Of course, this understanding sounds nice, but it is just a rough understanding. But in his realm, he has actually touched this Tao a long time ago, or in other words, most of the stellar powerhouses in the galaxy should have touched the Tao. For example, his domain, such as the so-called Kingdom of God by the powerful gods, if viewed according to the Tao he now knows, it is also a way of understanding Tao. This is amazing. In the Milky Way, there is no living being, or any system, that can clearly explain other systems or other cultivation methods, but this Tao is different. It can explain all systems. Vaguely, all correct. While Jia Yan was conceiving the general appearance of this Tao, he felt interested in the so-called Tao, or the method of cultivating Tao. While Jia Yan was researching, Wu Pila seemed to have returned from a high-level person. I've met seniors. It was obvious that Wu Pila felt a lot more familiar with Jia Yan this time, and she also had a slightly strange feeling, that is, she seemed to have obtained Jia Yan's strength. Jia Yan no longer dares to feel so careless about other people's explanations. What's your name, senior? Just call me Jia Yan. Okay, Wu Pila, I have something to ask you. Jia Yan knew that Wu Pila would definitely not listen to what he said. The creatures here treated the strong very much like those in the outside world. They even had more respect for the strong, and they felt that the strong were in this world. Just like eating more. After all, Jia Yan had never heard of any powerful technological weapons here. After discarding technology, he felt that the strong were indeed magnified even more. Especially here, there seemed to be extremely powerful ones. Even the great elder seems to be expressing that he is just an ordinary strong man in this world. Under such circumstances, Jia Yan has reason to believe that there will be more powerful strong people, and those strong people, Jia Yan doesn't know whether he will reach the level of a domain lord or even be more powerful than a domain lord. Wu Pila's current attitude towards Jia Yan is normal, because a weak person must have this attitude towards a strong person. Of course, now that Jia Yan has spoken, she won't be too rigid about those things. After a few words, Wu Pila regained her original feeling of talking to Jia Yan, because she also felt that Jia Yan was not such a hard person to talk to. So Jia Yan, you want to ask about some knowledge of Taoism. Wu Pila also knew that the Tao she understood could not be taught casually to others. If Jia Yan asked about such a thing, she would definitely refuse to answer. But what Jia Yan asked about was about Taoism, or some unique events, and she had something to say. It's like this. In fact, in our woods, there are not so many gossips like in the city. It's just that we have the same wonderful things here. For example, a few days ago, I heard that more than 100 kilometers away, there was a silkworm-like creature that actually understood the Tao on its own, and then massacred all directions and wiped out a small tribe. For another example, there is a tribe about the same size as ours more than 200 kilometers away from us. During the confrontation between a certain tribe and the animal ape tribe, the entire tribe was wiped out, and not even a single person could escape. There must be a powerful man from the ape tribe. Wu Pila told what she had seen and heard. Although they were all seemingly inconspicuous things and probably had nothing to do with Jia Yan still listened with great interest. However, when he was halfway through listening, he felt that Wu Pila seemed to be slowly letting down her guard, so the topic gradually turned to the topic of cultivation. Ha, You said you don't understand how their race practices. It's not surprising that you don't understand. After all, this race only exists in our forest. Let me tell you, their cultivation method is very funny. He is holding his head against the trunk of the tree. It is nothing like us, just sitting cross-legged and condensing Tao Chi into ourselves. Speaking of this, Wu Baila's newly aroused interest in conversation suddenly stopped. She felt like she had let something slip. Well, I won't talk anymore. I feel a little tired, so I'd better go and rest. Looking deeply at Jia Yan, she felt that everything she had done before had fallen into the trap of Jia Yan, a foreigner. Feeling like she wasn't revealing much, she left in a hurry. As everyone knows, Jia Yan has already gotten a lot of what he wants. In fact, even if she told the surrounding races or other funny anecdotes, it would increase Jia Yan's understanding of the world. Slowly, he has figured out that in a small unknown forest in this world, there is such a relatively small-looking race, human beings. And this group of humans cannot be said to be strong enough. At least in Wu Paila's words, it was explained that humans should be one of the top 10 ethnic groups in the world. There are still relatively huge humans in other places. The Empire, or the City of Humanity. Jia Yan was in this forest and just came out. A few days ago, someone witnessed something that almost made him collapse. That is, they saw a gap suddenly opened in the sky, and then disappeared quickly. This incident has been listed as the biggest mysterious news of the year, but no one thought that a friend from afar would come out of the huge gap. Hey, Senior Jia Yan, are you about to leave? We haven't even gotten to know each other yet. After Wu Paila said a lot, she suddenly realized that Jia Yan actually wanted to leave. Well, I do have some thoughts about leaving. After all, I've already disturbed you enough here. I really don't want to bother you. I mean, ahem, if you want to go, why don't you take me with you? I have no family and nothing to worry about. If you are willing to take me there will be someone to help you, a subordinate who takes care of everything by your side, right? Wu Paila's words to Jia Yan were very desperate to make Jia Yan stop. She even said directly that if Jia Yan wanted to leave, it would be best to take her with him. Jia Yan was thoughtful. He had already seen that these two young people wanted to leave with him, but Jia Yan had no intention of taking them away. The first is that this group should not let 2-star level combatants leave without any reason, that is, capable personnel who are not weak in this world. The second point is that Jia Long thinks that they can't help him, or if he tells it, he sees that his strength is not that powerful, so he might have other ideas. Jia Yan has too many secrets, and he is not even from this world at all, so he is very cautious. Well, it's impossible for me to take you away. You give me a certain amount of time. After I go to do certain things, I will come back to pick you up. This time may be 1 month, or 5 months, or even it may take a year, or even a lifetime. If you are willing to wait, then I will pick you up next time I come here. What Jia Yan said made Wu Paila silent for a while, because she could tell that it seemed to be Jia Yan's excuse. Haha, no matter what, I still want to take the risk with you. If you are not willing to take us, then I will act with Lu Ji. I believe that with the combined strength of the two of us, we should be able to survive in this forest. There won't be too many dangers. Wu Paila's tone of conversation with Jia Yan suddenly changed. After all, Jia Yan rejected her. This was like a man rejecting a girl's confession. It was extremely embarrassing. Of course, she would not give Jia Yan a good look. Jia Yan had nothing else to say. He spent this night slowly in the process of thinking and studying the Tao. But the next day, Jia Yan was a little surprised in this forest. Because yesterday, Wu Paila, the ape tribe that I just mentioned, actually came to this area where humans live, reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1488. In this forest where the human race lives, the strength of a human race, even if it is just a child, cannot be underestimated. Even in Jia Yan's view, they are all extremely powerful people. To the outside world, even a newborn child has strength above the heaven level, which can be said to be extremely powerful. And adults who become adults are even more powerful. Even individuals like Wu Pila, who has the primary strength level of a star, are not very powerful here, which shows how powerful this race is. But no matter how powerful it is only average in this world. Jia Yan has become more and more understanding of this world, and at the same time, he has a dumbfounded understanding of the power and strong people in this world. Some of the strong men in this world are so powerful that even Jia Yan can feel it and cannot believe it. Here, creatures do not necessarily have to be huge to be strong. Although extremely huge creatures are definitely powerful, there are also many strong people who do not follow this path. For example, in this human race, there are existences like the Great Elder. Not that huge, even similar to the average human race. As far as Jia Yan knows, there are other human beings who are more terrifying than the Great Elder. Jia Yan doesn't know exactly how powerful it is, but in short, he knows that this world is truly completely beyond the galaxy he knows. If any super strong person here goes out, he can suppress the entire galaxy, right? On the third day after listening to the Great Elder's sermon, Jia Yan was still staying at Wu Pila's house. He has spent the past 2 days understanding what the Great Elder said and summarizing it into his own body. It has to be said that Jia Yan's personal wisdom is quite good. He only listened to a little bit, and then Wu Pila and Lu Ji occasionally came over and explained to him in a few words. He slowly understood the meaning of Tao in this world. True understanding. As long as you give me some more time, maybe I can find a path that suits me in the future. Or is this path the path for everyone? Jia Yan has been summarizing his yin and yang system, but he has no clue about this kind of thing for the time being. While he was still conducting research that day, suddenly, Wu Pila was outside his treehouse and suddenly ran towards home. Lord Jia Yan, the ape clan is here. She said this to Jia Yan. The ape clan? Is it the ape clan you mentioned last time that attacked another race? What are they doing here? Jia Yan was stunned, not knowing what Wu Pila's words meant. They came to capture our tribe. It turns out that this tribe has a being as powerful as our Great Elder. Just now a few elders told me, let me tell you, if you are willing to help, they will be happy, but if you not willing to help, they want you to leave. Wu Pila seems to have high hopes for Jia Yan's help, because she has been in contact with Jia Yan these days and feels that Jia Yan is relatively approachable. But what she didn't know was that Jia Yan was actually a relatively indifferent existence at heart. The reason why he was so close to Wu Pila these days was because he wanted to know about the Tao from her mouth. Therefore, the approachable super strong man Wu Pila knew was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's not that close to her at all. And at this moment, she would see the true face of this strong man. Oh! The ape clan actually came to attack you. Well, I'm an outsider, so I can't intervene in your affairs, so I choose the second request and leave here immediately. Jia Yan was licking his face, wanting to wait here for a few more days to see if the Great Elder would fulfill his promise to him and explain the so-called Tao to him in person. But now it seems that the ape clan in this forest is attacking. Although Jia Yan has never seen other races in this world except this human race, he is not interested at all. After all, there is a legend among the apes that a strong man has been born. Even the Great Elder may be as powerful as him, and if someone dares to attack, he must be sure of it, so Jia Yan feels that it is better not to get into this muddy water. So when Wu Pila couldn't believe it, Jia Yan said he would not join the war, and then walked out of Wu Pila's residence, ready to flap his wings and fly to the outside world. But during this period, Wu Pila wanted to say something several times. But she also knew that Jia Yan's actions were relatively correct, and he didn't owe her race anything, so it was impossible for him to stay. But just when she stopped talking, Jia Yan flapped his wings and flew into the air. Outside the woods, a huge voice sounded. "Great Elder, you are indeed powerful. You are no weaker than me who has exploded in strength. But it doesn't matter. You are old after all. When I finish your strength, your death will follow. But before that, I think you should experience the beautiful death cry of your people. Little kids, listen to me. All the creatures in this group, as long as they dare to show their heads, will be killed by me. No mercy or anything. Just kill them as much as you can. Aren't some of you saying that you want to kill them all? Do you want to try the taste of a human woman? Haha, come on to me now." This voice was extremely frivolous, and his strength was certainly shocking. Jia Yan, who was so far away, was actually shaken by the force and almost fell from the air to the ground. "Master Jia Yan, why are you back again?" Although Wu Pila was also threatened by this power, she was after all a star-level combatant. After being shocked at this moment, she felt nothing else. But she didn't think that Jia Yan would be as affected as she was. Now that she saw Jia Yan actually falling to the ground, she couldn't help but feel happy. Damn it, he didn't come back, but he was scared back after hearing that guy's words. Jia Yan really wanted to answer her like this, but it was hard for him to say such things now. The entire human race regarded him as an extremely powerful person. If he leaked it now, he might not be sure how others would treat him. And Jia Yan also knows that he can't leave now. If he doesn't find a way, escapes or waits for the ape family creature to leave, he will be trapped here to death. Has this tribe of apes surrounded your tribe? Where is the sky? Jia Yan suddenly turned his head and asked Wu Pila. His brainwave power can no longer be used, so at this moment, he cannot explore that far. What he urgently wants to know now is whether this ape family has even blocked the sky. I think there should be a certain degree of defense. After all, there are some people in my clan who have the ability to fly to the sky. They must block this method. Wu Pila said. She still doesn't know what's going on with Master Jia Yan, because she doesn't think that Jia Yan is nearly as strong as her. She thought that Jia Yan has reached the level of the Great Elder, otherwise how could he be on an equal footing with the Great Elder? It's a pity that all the humans of this race have misunderstood that Jia Yan is actually not strong at all. Is there even power to block it in the air? This would be troublesome. Let me think about it. Jia Yan's head swelled up to 2 sizes, and he felt that he was in trouble at this moment. His only advantage, at least to the extent that he understands this world now, is Fission. Because before a certain level of strength, other races except the flying race are unable to fly, which makes Jia Yan's flying advantage extremely precious. But now that people have blocked Fission's method, Jia Yan knows that he doesn't dare to fly anymore. Although he can fly, it cannot be said that he cannot escape, but before this happens, it is better to see if there is any safer way to escape on the ground. In any case, he is not a creature of this race. Anyone would know this just by looking at his appearance. He was praying that this clan of apes would not pursue him, a creature that was completely out of reach. "Sir, since you are willing to help us, let's go to the battlefield. There is something not good in the battlefields over there. After all, our elders need to deal with their clan leader, and several other strong men will be able to. My hands are free." Jia Yan was startled. Wu Pila still thought that he wanted to help this race. Can you stop being so naive? Jia Yan was speechless. However, he has nowhere else to go at the moment, so he can go and watch the battle. After all, this is the first time he has seen a strong fight between alien races since he came to this world. Maybe he can gain something else. Of course, the premise of all this is that Jia Yan will not be discovered by the other party and must ensure a safe distance. Jia Yan knows his own strength. If the opponent's strongest person is a being who can be compared with the Great Elder, then it is impossible for him to defeat him. If that's the case, then he doesn't care. With such a terrifying power level, if he dares to reach out to the opponent, he will definitely be slapped to the point where he can't find the north. With Wu Pila, Jia Yan and his family returned along the path they took to this race. This human race is not so much a human race. In fact, Jia Yan feels that apart from appearance, it is very similar to many apes. Because they all live in the woods, so at this time, the woods where he and Wu Pila were running together were actually a road made of branches. The giant trees in this forest are all extremely huge. At least Jia Yan thinks that each one has a diameter as large as the moon. So when running in this, it is difficult to run a certain distance unless you run faster. We're here. That's the battleground over there. Let's go there. When Wu Pila led Jia Yan to a place where there were bursts of loud noises and terrifying energy burst levels, she pulled Jia Yan to go to the outside world for help. She was extremely happy. In the current battle, it was obvious that the ape clan had underestimated the human race here. They could only overwhelm the human race here. If Jia Yan, a suspected super strong man, joined the battlefield, that is definitely an important combat power that can turn the battle around. But she happily pulled Jia Yan, but it was impossible for Jia Yan to just rush forward with her like that. People thought he was a super strong person, but Jia Yan didn't dare to think that he was a super strong person. So he stopped. Sorry, I want to see the current battle situation first. If I rush to the battlefield rashly and don't understand the situation of such a war, I will be in danger, so I have to observe it. Jia Yan said this. Oh, that's right. I don't understand how strong men of your level fight, so let's take a look. Wu Pila seemed a little weird. She wanted to stay with Jia Yan and try again later, but Jia Yan couldn't let her stay. Let's do this. You go over to help first. I'll come out to fight later when I see what disadvantages you have. Although Jia Yan's words had many flaws and were not very reasonable, he was facing an ignorant girl creature in the forest. At this moment, she thought about it and seemed to feel that Jia Yan's words were also it was normal and in line with common sense, so she nodded. Okay, let's find Mr. Jia Yan from Shiyuan. I will go over to fight first. You will appear at the important moment later. You will definitely be very handsome. After he said this, he seemed to have no hesitation and charged suddenly towards the battlefield. It seemed that because there was a super strong man like Jia Yan behind him, he felt extremely confident. He rushed to the branch of a huge tree and happened to encounter a huge ape-like creature that was chasing and attacking a human child. Just fight it? Is this the ape clan? I didn't expect them to be so powerful. Jia Yan looked at Wu Pila and the monster fighting from a distance. It turns out that ape family is actually a huge monster that seems to be 5 or 6 kilometers from the outside world. It's just that his combat power is not much different from that of Wu Pila, who is only 1 or 2 kilometers in size. When fighting, neither side seems to be victorious. After Jia Yan saw the ape family, he knew that they looked very similar to the apes on the earth, so he looked further afield. At the gate of this race, which is the natural entrance formed by a row of giant trees, a group of either human race or ape race were fighting together. The most fierce battle among them was the battle between the Great Elder and a huge ape that was 10 kilometers in size. There are no other creatures inside or outside this battle circle, and no one dares to approach this battle circle, because the fighting strength of these two people is simply not on the same level as other strong men in the outside world. As expected, Mr. Ape Clan Chief, you have reached my level of invincibility, but do you think that by reaching this level, you can defeat even a strong person like me who has been invincible for a long time? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1489. While the great elder was fighting the ape, his expression was uncertain and he looked extremely angry. But the other party was not like that. Shen indeed looked calm and relaxed, feeling very proud. Haha, great elder, I know you used to be the strongest person in this forest, but it's different now. I've reached your level. As for who you say is stronger between me and you, isn't it just for show now? I'm competing. You are too young. As long as we continue to fight with you, you will definitely lose. And the subordinates around you who can help you are all entangled with my people. What else can you do? Today, you forest humans, they will be destroyed by us. This ape-like creature's strength has reached the same level as the great elder, especially his explosive power. I'm afraid it is, as he said, extremely terrifying and has already surpassed the great elder. Of course, strength is only one aspect in combat. Even this strong man would not think that he would be able to quickly kill the great elder. But he still believed that he would be able to win quickly, because he was not sure at all. How could he come here to fight? After all, there is a powerful person behind this being. Thinking of this ape creature with extremely terrifying strength suddenly smiled lightly. When the two sides were fighting, they had been observing the fighting around them. These two players, who are almost invincible in the same realm, naturally cannot quickly tell the winner. And if they want to tell the winner, the subordinates next to them might as well wait for them to finish the fight before continuing, but in fact we all know that whether we win or lose depends a lot on how well these subordinates fight. Because the two nearly invincible existences are not lies. Unless they want to use all their fighting power from the beginning to decide the winner desperately, otherwise they can only use their ordinary fighting strength and wait until their subordinates. Now that our battle has a result, there may be changes. And they all know that their current strength is not enough to truly kill each other. If the other party wants to escape, it is impossible to stop them. Our side may really lose. The great elder saw that all the combatants on his side were at a disadvantage and were beaten to a pulp by the ape clan. Even those who had some resistance could not help others and could only linger. This made him a little depressed. However, he rolled his eyes and soon saw a very tall shadow behind a tree, standing there silently watching the battle. His eyes suddenly lit up. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please help me with your fists. He suddenly used a strange power, which was transmitted to Jia Yan. Huh? The great elder actually told me the rumor himself. Jia Yan was also surprised. You must know that he has no idea of joining the war, let alone any idea of helping this human being. Although he has always had a lot of affection and preferential treatment for human-looking creatures, it is impossible at this time, because joining the battle will put his life at risk. Will Jia Yan join? Your Excellency Jia Yan, I know you like martial arts and the like. If you are willing to help our clan tide over the difficulties, then I will let you go to our clan's secret book pavilion, where you can choose the secret books. Seeing that Jia Yan seemed unmoved by the idea of helping his own race, the great elder also worked hard. It was impossible for such a strong man to take action without some bloodshed. So he continued to preach. You actually gave me the conditions to see their secret books? But I really don't have the strength to defeat the masters. Jia Yan didn't know how to respond, because his brainwave power could no longer be released, which made Jia Yan unable to respond. Your Excellency Jia Yan, otherwise, I will give you a copy of my clan's secret medicine. Although you can't use the secret medicine yourself, it can be used by your race or other juniors you like, so that they can quickly feel the secret. Tao, if you understand the Tao, you can grow quickly, isn't this also possible? The great elder's words seemed very sincere. However, his words made Jia Yan, who was standing aside, suddenly startled. This great elder actually told him to give him a secret medicine that could quickly sense the Tao. He suddenly became very interested in this. You must know that he will not give this kind of thing to juniors or the like, but will keep it for himself. But the only problem is that he is not that powerful at all now, and participating in the war is definitely courting death. You must know that his current strength is at the same level as Wu Pile, not much stronger. Or relying on his own powerful body and using various means, he might be able to defeat an enemy of the Wuobili level, but what about the more powerful ones? You must know that Wu Pile, in this situation, is just like an ordinary minion. Jia Yan doesn't think that he, who is a little stronger than her, can have any effect. Oh! Great Elder, your race actually has helpers from the outside? Humph, I think his strength is not that good. The invincible strong man of the ape clan actually communicated with others when he felt that the Great Elder was fighting, so he followed the direction of the Great Elder and saw Jia Yan directly. For Jia Yan, who is not a human being, nor a creature of their ape family, nor a physical being in this forest, this invincible ape strongman, does not have much regard for him. Generally speaking, each race will have certain vassals from the outside world, and at this time, he regarded Jia Yan as such a vassal. A vassal's strength may be very large, but generally speaking, it will be very weak. Jia Yan and the Great Elder ignored the words of this ape creature. Jia Yan just had a gleaming look in his eyes, thinking about the conditions offered by the Great Elder and what he should do. It's not that he is completely incapable of taking action, but now Jia Yan's combat effectiveness is too weak. Unfortunately, I am still one step away from comprehending the first path, which is the understanding of my own yin and yang system. If I can take this step, then I can gain the strength to fight in this world. Jia Yan knows that his strength is actually very weak now, but what is weak is the most basic strength. Even if his brainwave power can operate in his body, it can only move a little bit. It is said that it is the same as the power in the ordinary universe outside, even 1/10 is not enough. But if he has the first power of Tao that can be used in this world, and it is the power of Yin and Yang that he has understood the most, which is also the most powerful, then his strength will probably be higher than it is now. At least a little stronger. Jia Yan doesn't know how much stronger it is, but he understands that it will definitely be much stronger. At this moment, Jia Yan's thoughts were spinning wildly. He didn't want to fight, but he also wanted to get something that would allow him to understand the Tao. After thinking for a while, he raised his head. Great Elder, if you are sincere, give me the medicine first, he said. It turned out that he thought that the Great Elder must have made some excuses, or said some conditions, or some restrictions on Jia Yan's use. But what he didn't expect was that the Great Elder turned around and turned to the bald man whom Jia Yan had dealt with before and saw on the road to preaching. Go and get a copy of our enlightenment medicine to Mr. Jia Yan. Yes. Although the man didn't know what the Great Elder said to Jia Yan, he also knew that this must be the benefit exchanged between the Great Elder and His Excellency Jia Yan. But he really didn't know whether this pill of enlightenment could make a strong man of Jia Yan's level interested in taking action in exchange. For this bald man, he was defeated by Jia Yan, and he had no interest in this so-called enlightenment medicine. He thought it was a low-end thing. Why was Jia Yan still interested? But since Jia Yan asked for it, he would give it, because these were the words the Great Elder said at such a critical moment. After all, to him, it seems that this medicine is not too precious for their race. Many young people have good talents and see the possibility of great development in the future, so the Great Elder will give this medicine. For example, Wu Baile and Lu Ji realized the Tao after being given this medicine. As a result, they are now considered to be more helpful among the young people in the war. He forced his opponent away, then handed him over to another clansman whose strength was about the same as his, and then ran towards the huge tree in the clan's meeting hall. Where are you escaping? Stop him. This guy must be trying to do something. The ape who was his opponent probably had a high status in the ape clan. Seeing that he left directly after several obvious conversations with the elder, the ape creature immediately started to drink loudly. However, When several other apes went to intercept the bald man, another human race jumped up and intercepted the blocking force. No one knew that what this bald man was going to pick up was actually going to be given to an outsider, Jia Yan. Jia Yan's idea is also very simple. Fighting or not is another matter. But after listening to the Great Elder's explanation of his yin and yang system, he actually has a strange feeling, as if he is ready to understand it. It seemed like something was coming, but he didn't realize it. He was extremely unhappy being stuck in this feeling. I just happened to hear the Great Elder say that there is a medicine in their race that can help people quickly comprehend the Tao. Although Jia Yan couldn't imagine what this thing was, it could actually make people understand the Tao quickly, which was far beyond his imagination. But still not in the way, Jia Yan wanted to get this thing to see if it would be useful to him. If it works, my yin and yang system can be transformed into yin and yang Dao. By then, it is unknown whether my combat power will skyrocket. Jia Yan's mosquito compound eyes flashed with wisps of light. He had already thought that if he needed a lot of time to comprehend the medicine after getting it, then he would still find a way to escape first and leave this place of right and wrong. And if he takes this medicine and really realizes the Tao, but the appearance of the Tao does not make his strength surge, then he will still choose to escape quietly. Although it will definitely be more difficult. As for the third possibility, that is what Jia Yan also wants to see. This possibility is that Jia Yan got this medicine and quickly understood the yin and yang Tao after taking it. As a result, his strength also exploded instantly. Then he is willing to fight for this race. After all, they have done him a favor. It's just that the level of this battle is not to fight to the death for them, but to flee when you see something bad going on. While Jia Yan was thinking about all this, the bald man who left returned after running around for a long time. The difference is that he is holding something like a box in his hand. If placed in the outside world, this box could be inhabited by people, but in this world, a box is just a box, not very big, and no one knows what is inside. Of course, as soon as Jia Yan saw him, he put his eyes on the box in his hand, because he knew that the thing he wanted was in it. Your Excellency Jia Yan, here are the medicines we gave you. I have taken 10 of them for you. I hope you can fulfill your promise. The bald man actually took 10 of the pills, the Great Elder said in one breath. Jia Yan was stunned, as if the Great Elder was not talking about such a quantity. Maybe that's the amount that people are asking for, no matter what, the more the better, of course. Even if he can use one, he might be able to exchange it for money in this world in the future. Jia Yan took the box and opened it. There were fragrant pills inside. But just as he opened the box, the Great Elder fighting on the other side seemed to have seen this too. He staggered and was almost injured by being hit by the strong ape. You prodigal son, you actually took 10 pills in one breath. I asked you to take one, but you actually took 10 pills. This. When Jia Yan heard this, his expression was happy, and then he deliberately pretended not to hear, and stuffed the box directly under his wing membrane. If he was leaving later, of course he would pack it up and take it away with him. The bald man's expression suddenly froze after hearing the elder's words. Then he looked at Jia Yan and saw that he had put away his things. Immediately, he also knew that it was impossible for Jia Yan to come back. And just as he thought just now, in his opinion, the pill didn't have that much value at all, so after sighing, he went straight to the battlefield without asking Jia Yan what he wanted back. Because the strong human race who fought against a master on his behalf was already injured. If he didn't go, a strong man would die. Jia Yan on the other end received a long-distance transmission from the Great Elder using his Tao method. Your Excellency Jia Yan, is that all right? Can you take action? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1490. The Great Elder's words were full of urgency. First of all, he was anxious. The current war situation was indeed not that good. What was also urgent was that he did not know whether Jia Yan would participate in the war. He was afraid that Jia Yan would not take action. But what made him despair was that Jia Yan only glanced at the great elder. Taking out a pill from the box and looking at it slowly, Jia Yan did not leave the battlefield. Instead, he spoke in the air so directly that everyone could hear it. I will join the war, but not now. Great elder, please work hard first. I want to try to see if this pill is real. After saying that, Jia Yan threw the red-looking pill in his hand directly into his mouth. He couldn't tell at all whether the pill was real, and of course he couldn't tell whether it was fake. According to his observation, the attitude of the great elder and the bald man should not be fake, so the pill was real. The probability is high. As for whether it would be poisonous, Jia Yan didn't have so many doubts, because he was already used to his body and was not afraid of any toxins at all. And he forgot that he was in a wonderful world, and the people in this world must have a way to poison him, a member of the evolved beast family. Putting the pill into his mouth, the pill looked like a small ball, so Jia Yan was able to put the pill into his mouth smoothly. Well, soon, Jia Yan felt a little surprised. Because at this moment, he felt that an amazing breath was being released from his body. No one around him knew what this foreign strong man was doing at this time, but only the bald man who had just handed over to Jia Yan was stunned when he felt the fluctuation of Jia Yan's aura. What's wrong with this guy? I gave him the most basic enlightenment medicine. It doesn't matter if a strong man like him takes it. The bald man's surprise was not unreasonable, but he didn't have time to think so much, because his opponent attacked him again. Hey, that guy over there seems to be pretty good, but his body is in a weird state. Just when the fighting here was extremely fierce, outside the fighting circle, an alien ape creature suddenly came to the fighting area. His strength is roughly equivalent to that of an intermediate level being from an outside star. Although he is not considered powerful in this battlefield, he is definitely one of the more powerful ones. He had just defeated his human opponent, and was worried that he had no opponent. Now he saw Jia Yan's condition, and after his expression changed, he charged forward with great joy. Not good. When the bald man saw this scene, he quickly prepared to ask two tribesmen to come to support Jia Yan, because he knew that Jia Yan had taken the enlightenment pill and was in a strange state. If he was accidentally killed, then their clan would be missing a huge help. But as soon as he finished his instructions, he found to his depressing surprise that every subordinate or clan member around him was caught in the battle. He himself was also trapped by a powerful ape creature, and it was impossible to have his hands free. Asshole, let's see if Jia Yan can deal with this charging ape creature. Speaking of which, why are the apes so powerful? The human race in our forest is originally much stronger than them. Yes, they actually have the strength to attack our race so quickly after destroying a whole generation. This is simply unreasonable. This bald man can be considered a very powerful and high-status figure, so while fighting, he was also observing the situation on the left and right. Naturally, he had been keeping an eye on the situation with Jia Yan. If anything unexpected happened to Jia Yan, he would not want to see it. While the ape creature rushed towards Jia Yan, he was also observing Jia Yan's movements. After all, the feeling of power emitted by this guy was very strange. Although it was not so powerful that it made him afraid, the feeling is not something that ordinary forest creatures like them can release. What is going on? His power feels like it is very primitive and cannot be released from the body at all, but it seems that this kind of power is growing rapidly and explosively, as if it is about to become a kind of enlightenment of the Tao. Could it be that he is a person who has just realized the Tao? It is impossible. The existence of this kind of power still exists. It would be ridiculous if you have just realized the Tao, just like an adult who has just learned to walk. This is impossible. As soon as they approached Jia Yan's location, the approaching ape creature felt a little bit frightened by the terrifying coercion displayed by Jia Yan at this moment. Because the sense of power that Jia Yan used at this moment made him feel an extremely shocking sense of fear. But this power seems to have no way to leave the body, it is just a power flowing within one's body. However, it is also undergoing rapid transformation. It is precisely because of this transformation that the power leaks out to the outside world and he can feel it. And it was precisely this change that made the ape creature that had just arrived suddenly feel a little bit frightened. Although I don't know what this guy is doing, this change is obviously a very unpleasant change. Of course he didn't know that Jia Yan was making a breakthrough in strength at this moment. In other words, a breakthrough in strength is not so appropriate, but if it is an improvement in some kind of power, it should be correct. After all, the current Jia Yan is like a creature who, although powerful, is an evolved beast that traverses the interstellar world in the outside world, but in this world, he is a creature who only masters low-level power use methods. And now he is making the final integration. In fact, the effect of the pill is not too magical, it is just a thing that allows people to quickly realize the Tao. And this realization also depends on whether the user has a very high understanding of Tao, or the origin of power. Jia Yan originally had a lot of understanding of power, and even the substances in his body originally had two kinds of existence. Therefore, Jia Yan must have a lot of insights into his own yin and yang system, and with the help of such a pill, he can quickly evolve his insights and strength to a more advanced level. This kind of feeling, to put it bluntly, is a matter of accumulation, and since Jia Yan is an evolved beast, the time for this kind of accumulation will be greatly shortened. That's why, when this ape creature came, he felt a certain power in Jia Yan's body, which was like turning on a tap of tap water, and the feeling increased several times in an instant. Of course, it's not that his strength has increased several times, but that his understanding and perception of power have increased several times. Although it is not as effective and direct as directly increasing his strength several times, in some aspects, this improvement is better than the increase in strength. Several times, it will be useful. It's amazing. My perception and artistic conception have reached a level that I can't even believe. During his own practice, Jia Yan knew that someone was coming, but he had no intention of stopping to comprehend and increase his speed before the other party arrived. You must know that every minute and every second at this time is extremely precious. Very good, my yin and yang system power has already reached a certain shackles in my perception, but now this shackles has been quickly broken, and I have understood a higher and deeper power. In this way, my strength has definitely improved. Isn't that a lot? Jia Yan was happy in his heart, and the happiest thing was that he had completely improved his yin and yang system to a level of consciousness. In other words, if he had the chance, he could call himself yin and yang. Road. You know, the difference is sometimes a matter of level and the creator's understanding of power. Jia Yan previously used the name yin-yang system because of his limitations, but now that he has come into contact with the secret of Tao, he knows that the system and Tao are simply incomparable. His advantage is that he has both positive and negative forces in his body, which are completely pure yin and yang. This is also the biggest reason why he can quickly master this new power. Huh? There is someone who is not afraid of death. Come and attack me. Just as Jia Yan was comprehending everything, he suddenly felt a huge energy on his side, suddenly attacking him. This made Jia Yan slightly startled. Then Jia Yan felt a heroic spirit in his heart. And just when Jia Yan felt the approaching attacker, the ape creature did attack in front of Jia Yan. When he saw Jia Yan from a distance, he suddenly thought that the time had come for him to attack. Ape creatures don't say anything about sneak attacks or not. He just felt that at this moment, he must take the opportunity to eliminate this possible risk, otherwise there might be some trouble later, so he just went to war without declaring it. Besides, when the two armies are at war, Is there any idea of a sneak attack? Anyway, he attacked. Just when the attack came in front of Jia Yan, he roared angrily. Die! This is no longer a reminder, but a declaration that I killed this strong man, and everyone should give me some credit. Yes, in his opinion, Jia Yan is definitely going to die. And there must be one more name on his kill list, but the strength and name of this enemy are unknown. Even if he is really strong, he won't get very high points. In the ape clan, there is a saying that points are awarded for killing, so this ape creature attacked Jia Yan simply because he felt that Jia Yan's points should be good. But just as his attack came, Jia Yan, who just now felt like he was practicing, suddenly moved at this moment. Just you. He sneered, and then the figure suddenly disappeared in the eyes of this creature. That's right, it just disappears. What kind of move is this? With one blow, the ape creature attacked the trunk of the giant tree, but it didn't even touch a hair on the opponent in front of him. Why is this happening? Where did he escape? To this ape creature, he had never seen or even heard of similar moves. How could a large living creature disappear in an instant? As the creature looked at Color Weak in horror, a space behind him opened silently. Among them, there was a sharp foot that was about to pierce his back and heart. Don't even think about it. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, this creature seemed to have eyes on its back. It panicked and quickly rolled forward, using its ape body to make a series of extremely flexible movements, and then looked at the sneak attacker with its eyes. Direction. This ape's Tao power is in exploration, so at this moment, he can feel a silent attack coming. Unfortunately, he only avoided a little bit, and another part of the attack left a thrilling scratch on his back. But he didn't have time to pay attention to his injuries. Instead, at this moment, he looked at the cracked space. In this space, I saw a seemingly calm creature, as if it had just done something trivial, lightly shaking off the blood on its feet. There was no response to the creature's fear. The unknown is the biggest source of fear. The sudden disappearance just now was something that frightened others, but now, this strange flying creature can actually get out of a weird space and then attack the person it wants to attack. This makes that person frightened. The ape creature felt cold all over its body. What exactly are you? He was extremely frightened, and even at this moment, he thought that this creature was definitely not a normal creature, but something he didn't understand. Haha, what am I? Guess. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then the space in front of him suddenly closed. He entered the subspace again, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Looking around, Jia Yan smiled slightly. It turns out that this world is not without subspace, but his previous power did not reach the level of Tao, so he was unable to open the subspace. But now, after he had just comprehended the yin and yang Dao, he immediately revealed his subspace talent. After all, he was already a person with extremely outstanding subspace talent. As for why, this ape creature was extremely frightened by his performance. He thought that it should be because there are not many subspace talents in this world, or there is not much knowledge in this mountain forest, otherwise he would not be able to do this even once. Space talent can scare a mid-level creature like this into a star. But, is he a mid-level star in this world? Jia Yan changed his mind slightly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1491. Happy New Year. At this moment, Jia Yan just realized the so-called Taoist queen, and felt that his strength was unprecedentedly powerful. He wanted to test whether his strength was as powerful as a so-called mid-level star in this world. He had a great fear of the creatures in this world from the beginning. Even before, he thought that there was not much difference in strength between himself and Wu Pilot and others. Even if Jia Yan himself felt that his strength should be those who are stronger than them must be much stronger in nature, but with the gap between them in front of both sides, Jia Yan is no longer so confident. But that's different now. Because Jia Yan also understood the Tao. So he wanted to try how he, a middle-level star in the outside world, would feel in front of this middle-level ape creature who had also understood the Tao, even if it was just a basic Tao. And after gaining strength, he originally thought about helping this forest human race. Of course, now he still doesn't have much understanding of Tao. It's just that he already knows how to release his previous power through the medicine just now. Just like this time-space talent and his brainwave power, as long as the effect of this power has not worn off, he will still be able to perform some operations. Therefore, now Jia Yan, to put it bluntly, is still relying on the medicine to support his understanding of the Tao. If you want him to rely on his own understanding of Tao to fight, he will have to wait at least for a while. This guy actually uses such an amazing trick. In my opinion, it is a completely new way of fighting. But so what if it is a new way of fighting? If your strength is like this, I can attack you at the same time, dodge and counterattack. When the ape creature carefully recalled the state of Jia Yan's attack on him, he fully understood that Jia Yan's combat power was not completely invincible. Even though Jia Yan had just used the evasive method of entering the subspace with his body that he didn't know the principle of, but he recalled the feeling of fighting power that Jia Yan had when he appeared in the normal space, and he understood that Jia Yan didn't seem to have surpassed him. Many powerful people. No, if he and I continue to be entangled like this, and he has been hiding in that weird space, no matter what, it is impossible for me to defeat him. In this case, I will leave here and go to the other side of the same clan, and he will be alone. Do people, even if they are powerful, dare to appear next to their own kind? It's impossible. He made up his mind, knowing that although he was not too afraid of the enemy in front of him, he still had no way to kill him, and he might even be killed by him in a sneak attack. So he changed the ferocity of his previous attack and suddenly retreated. Where to escape? Jia Yan suddenly appeared beside him. However, this ape creature, worthy of being a mid-level stellar being in this world, suddenly evaded in another direction the moment Jia Yan appeared. For Jia Yan, his subspace sneak attacks were almost invincible in the past, but in this ape, they have become almost useless. Except for the first sneak attack which was more effective, the following Jia Yan appeared behind this creature several times in a row, but was unable to do anything to him. Awesome, it's probably because of this Tao that their ability to sense the body is much stronger than that of the strong men in the outside world. So, my advantage in this space has actually been wiped out a lot. Jia Yan looked at the escaping ape creature indifferently in the subspace, and then his expression became strange for a while. Because he felt that the strength of the yin and yang Dao in his body had slowly changed in such a short period of time. As a strong man, Jia Yan has always been quite aware of his own strength. After becoming stronger, Jia Yan rarely feels that his strength is like the rising tide that lifts all boats when he was weak before. After all, even if he is an evolved beast, he is still a cosmic creature. For cosmic creatures, even an evolved beast has to slow down after reaching an extremely powerful level. Of course, Jia Yan's progress in the past, even though it was slow, was still extremely fast compared to other life forms in the universe. But at this moment, Jia Yan felt the feeling of rapid progress again. My God, this feeling is so different. It's not much different from my mutation. Jia Yan felt the power in his body and was deeply surprised by the extent of the improvement. Because for Jia Yan, his strength has almost reached the preliminary peak of a stellar intermediate level. Although it is said that he has just been promoted, in fact it is difficult for him to improve his strength. If your realm is not stable, how can you advance? But at this moment, he actually felt like he had an extremely shocking promotion strength. Of course, this promotion does not mean that he has actually been promoted, but that his understanding of Tao has been improving rapidly, which has led to his seemingly rapid promotion of strength. In fact, this is not a real promotion, and it does not even have much impact on Jia Yan's brainwave power or other basic powers. This is the promotion of understanding the Tao. The ape suddenly ran away, but Jia Yan struck out, causing the ape creature to continue to run for its life. "Brother, come and save me." Suddenly, this ape, who was at the middle level of a star, shouted fiercely at an ape in the battle group. "Coming." Just after he finished shouting, a creature that looked like a giant gorilla suddenly appeared. Its size is many times larger than Jia Yan's. When he arrived, Jia Yanzhen was forced under a tree by the middle-level ape with one blow, and he was about to kill him directly. "Who dares to bully my brother?" The huge orangutan slapped him directly. Not good. Jia Yan originally didn't seem to care too much about this silly-looking orangutan-like creature, because he knew that a creature with a not-so-shrewd head could not be powerful. Because the melon seeds in the head are abnormal, it means that they do not understand certain paths in the universe, and it is impossible to walk on their own path when moving forward. Such a creature may look powerful, but it is not necessarily much stronger than a weak creature. But the moment this silly orangutan-like creature attacked, he felt that he was wrong. How can a creature as simple as a fool be able to explode with such power? Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, and then he was suddenly hit by this unexpected force. "Haha, you're dead. Anyone who gets hit by my brother's attack will die." The first mid-level ape who fought with Jia Yan was about to be hit by Jia Yan's blow. At this moment, he was able to recover a little bit of his vitality. And the way he looked at Jia Yan seemed to confirm that the creature hit by his brother, the orangutan-like creature, would definitely not survive. After all, it was obtained with countless blood and biological lives. As for his brother, he seemed a little stupid, but he didn't know why his strength was still improving by leaps and bounds. My brother practiced it? This is a technique that is popular all over the world. When this ape-like creature felt extremely confident in his brother, he even thought that Jia Yan would be directly killed by that punch. Jia Yan, who was flying backwards, was indeed slightly injured. Or it shouldn't be said that it was an injury, but that his azure defense was knocked out. But his focus was not on himself, but on the giant orangutan creature that had just appeared. So, is this a creature that has entered the Tao using a simple mind? It seems that the Tao is not something that I thought, something that requires some kind of brain to be cultivated. Jia Yan looked at this orangutan-like creature and suddenly deepened his understanding of Tao. Because he had previously thought that this way could only be used by a creature with a good mind. But now it seems that this is not the case at all. This path is very mysterious. When it becomes difficult, even a creature like Jia Yan who thinks he has a good mind cannot get into it. But when it becomes easy, even a gorilla like this one can get into it, and it seems to be quite powerful. The appearance of this creature inspired Jia Yan a lot. While flying upside down, Jia Yan, the guy who was thought to be dead by the two brothers, actually quickly entered a strange space from behind. What? He's not dead? He actually entered that dimension again. Be careful, brother. The ape-like stellar mid-level creature quickly said this to the giant gorilla behind him. What he fears most is not a head-on battle with Jia Yan. After all, his brother is known as the top 3 strong men in the clan. Otherwise, the ape creature who is his younger brother would not think that Jia Yan had been beaten by him just now. Yan must die. But unfortunately, his orangutan brother has some IQ problems. He has no way to deal with opponents who are more flexible or who use their brains to win. In some battles, he will even be defeated by opponents who are far weaker than him. The opponent is defeated directly. So after seeing Jia Yan's move, he felt a little frightened, because it could be seen that Jia Yan was not a brute force existence, but an intelligent creature that his brother was most afraid of. Of course, he didn't know that Jia Yan was not actually a completely intelligent player, but a person with a relatively changeable style. he will rely on his own judgment to deal with enemies that appear. Now he could tell that the orangutan creature that had just appeared, together with the midstellar ape from before, was not the only one who could resist head-on, so Jia Yan hid in the subspace. Of course, if he used his body's antimatter combat power in this situation, he would definitely have a certain chance of killing these two powerful men. But isn't this a desperate situation? How could Jia Yan reveal his biggest trump card before that moment? Of these two guys, one is very powerful, and the other has a good grasp of the situation. He was able to dodge the sneak attack I just made. It seems that they are well combined and cooperate well. It seems that I am in a lot of trouble. Jia Yan looked at the two brothers from a distance in the subspace. Seeing their coordinated movements, Jia Yan instantly knew that they were definitely not just cooperating temporarily for fun. They must have had a lot of rich cooperation experience. So it was difficult for Jia Yan to give in. I don't know what level this orangutan creature is supposed to be. His strength is so great that he can be regarded as the pinnacle of an intermediate star. Jia Yan classified the giant orangutan-like creature into an intermediate-level peak existence of stars in the outside world. You have to know that there are such existences, but he rarely sees them, at least they are creatures of that level. For Jia Yan, who is not in perfect condition now, he is really a troublesome guy. However, this stupid orangutan is an excellent opportunity for me to study and practice Tao. Because his fighting method is not so difficult for me to deal with, as for the other guy. Jia Yan looked at the two ape-like creatures preparing to fight him from a distance. Although the big man looks like an orangutan, if you look closely, you can see that they are of the same race. Jia Yan suddenly reached behind the small ape creature in the subspace. Coming. The small ape creature, for some reason, suddenly sensed Jia Yan's arrival. He turned back suddenly and was about to attack Jia Yan's body. However, when he attacked, he saw a tiny ray of light exploding from the subspace. This is exactly the little bit of body material that Jia Yan was knocked down by when he forcibly picked up the orangutan creature just now. Although Jia Yan doesn't want his secret to be exposed, when he performs it now, he is inside the subspace. Even if there is some explosive light that explodes to the outside world, no one will know that this thing is the tissue of his body. Jia Yan's attack was an earth-shattering blow. Although the smaller ape creature had long been prepared for Jia Yan's sneak attack, at this moment, it was still a little gray-faced and used some of its body's strength. Blocked the light of the explosion's power. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan wanted him to do just that. When he blocked Jia Yan's explosive light, the power of the explosion was not enough to kill him. At most, it only made him slightly shocked. But he saw the only empty space on the side of his body that was blocking the force. A front foot, like the ghost's dagger, suddenly stabbed out from the subspace. Puff. This smaller ape creature was stunned for a moment. What kind of creature are you? He was stunned, his eyes widened. It's just extremely difficult to ask such a sentence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1492. However, the ape, who was equivalent to an intermediate star, did not wait for Jia Yan's answer. His head fell to the ground. Dying from anger. Ah, I want you to die. The huge orangutan-like ape creature fell to the ground instantly when it saw its younger brother. It couldn't bear to die, and it directly attacked and killed him in a furious rage. His strength is much stronger than that of his younger brother. If the Great Elder and the others are enemies at that level, then this gorilla-like biological powerhouse is invincible at his level. Oh, you want to kill me? I guess you can't do it yet. Jia Yan knew that he was extremely powerful in face-to-face combat, but without that younger brother as his assistant and guide, his current combat effectiveness was not that strong. At least for Jia Yan, he had nothing to be afraid of. Just as this extremely fierce monster attacked Jia Yan, he stepped back slightly. Whoo! The gorilla's fist hit the trees, causing pieces of trees to fly. But Jia Yan has already disappeared in front of this orangutan creature. Hey, where are you going? He was a little confused. But just when he didn't know where Jia Yan was, a faint black shadow slowly pierced out of the air next to him. This is Jia Yan's front foot. That orangutan creature was worthy of being almost invincible at his level. When Jia Yan's attack came, he suddenly dodged backwards. Jia Yan's sneak attack on the foot did not stab him. It's scary, you are despicable. Come out and fight me. I want to avenge my brother. Rao is a fool like orangutan monster. At this moment, he feels extremely troubled by Jia Yan's strength and doesn't know how to deal with it. For a fool, his combat power may be extremely strong, but his brain is not good enough. He will be even less able to encounter an opponent like Jia Yan who may have never encountered him before, and without his younger brother to help explain. Know how to deal with it? He was waiting to see if any strong men from the clan would come to help. Even if it was a weak man, it would be enough to teach him how to deal with Jia Yan. But Jia Yan didn't give him much chance to wait. Because he knew that such a being, even if his mind was weak, might be able to unleash terrifying power later, so at this moment, he continued to attack. After all, as a being with extremely rich combat experience, Jia Yan already knows exactly how to distinguish the priorities in today's combat experience. There is nothing fair or unfair. If such a being needs the guidance of others to unleash its full fighting power, then why should we fight him fairly? Jia Yan silently made another attack. Ah! The orangutan-like creature suddenly attacked behind, trying to neutralize Jia Yan's attack. But Jia Yan's move was just a feint. After the attack, he did not fight with the opponent and retreated directly into the subspace. Moving within the subspace, even half a step, has the effect of dozens or even hundreds of steps in the outside world. So Jia Yan moved slowly in the subspace, appearing next to the giant orangutan monster, attacking its vital parts with one blow. However, this orangutan creature is worthy of being an existence that has reached an almost invincible state at the same level. Under Jia Yan's attack, he did not feel any sense of defeat. He just relied on his fighting instinct and the understanding of Tao can resist or counter-attack Jia Yan's sneak attack. Although the two have little contact, the actual feeling of confrontation is extremely powerful. However, the way Jia Yan is fighting seems different from the eyes of other strong men or the human race. They all saw Jia Yan's fighting process from a distance and fell into chaos. Especially the Great Elder, he had seen Jia Yan's fighting process with his eyes, but what he couldn't believe was that Jia Yan actually treated two people who, in his opinion, were just weaklings. A tough fight. Impossible. Why is Master Jia Long so unbearable? I remember that he should have a certain degree of defense against my attacks. Could it be that at this time, it is impossible to do foreign work? The Great Elder had no other explanation but to explain that Jia Yan was doing hard work on him at this moment. This made the Elder feel slightly angry. You must know that as a powerful being, he can't stand the behavior of similar villains. Of course, if he knew that the strength Jia Yan was using now was almost all the strength he could use, he would probably be extremely shocked. It's a pity that he didn't know, and now he thinks that Jia Yan is simply coping with the problem. It's a shame that I gave him so many enlightenment pills from my clan. Oh, what a white-eyed wolf! The Great Elder was depressed. The process of the war has become increasingly fierce. The strong men on the human side came from all directions. After all, not all the strong men would participate in the initial battle. Some of them must be hunting outside or doing some secret work. With their return, the balance of strength between the two sides in the battle slowly began to change. At the beginning, there were not many strong people left behind on the human side, so they were at a disadvantage, and several people even died at the beginning. But now, they have slowly reversed the disadvantage of a relatively small number of people, and even in turn, slowly suppressed the opponent's army. Damn it, this human race is much harder to defeat than the previous race. What's even more frightening is that this old man has been fighting me for so long without any sign of weakening. The leader of the ape expressed his extreme depression about the fighting situation around him. You must know that before this battle, he thought he could follow the previous race and wipe out the entire human clan. Unfortunately, the ape miscalculated. There is more than one powerful person in this human clan. Even the great elder of the human clan who he thought he could defeat was unable to defeat him. This made him extremely depressed. It won't be easy for me to explain to that adult, but that adult probably also expected this, haha. Thinking of the existence of that adult, the ape commander suddenly smiled slightly. As long as there is that adult, the little things here mean nothing. For him, the real thing is to show off quickly in this battle. Great Elder, when you were fighting me, you still dared to look around. You believe in yourself more. When he discovered that the Great Elder of the human being who was fighting him actually had free time to look around at this moment, his expression suddenly became even more sinister. I looked at it randomly, and there is no conflict with fighting you. Haha, or should I say, your strength is not enough for me to use my full strength. It's just that it's true that I can't defeat you either. The Great Elder smiled slightly and spoke to the ape leader with words that seemed both approval and disdain. Of course, the disdainful words he said were already a great insult to the leader of the ape creature. Humph, you actually look down on me. I see you looking at me randomly. You should die. The ape leader's eyes showed a trace of anger, and then he struck suddenly at the Great Elder. On the other side, Jia Yan didn't care what a group of human creatures thought of him. He just attacked and tested the orangutan-like creature at this moment. The brain of this orangutan creature is so stupid that he actually cooperated with me in understanding the existence of Tao. His Tao seems relatively superficial, although it is not less than others in quantity, but because it is simple, I can understand it by analogy. Jia Yan has been staring at the orangutan-like creature in front of him with his own eyes. Even a few times, because no one pointed out the orangutan creature, he had the opportunity to seriously injure it, but Jia Yan missed it and did not attack. This made the battle between the two sides even more entangled. Hey, don't run away, watch me punch you to death. The orangutan creature was almost jumping with anger because the brother he relied on most died in the hands of this creature that looked like a flying creature. He wanted to avenge his brother, but at this moment, he couldn't hit him at all. Jia Yan, what's the point of revenge? He also knew that Jia Yan had been playing with him, but at this moment, he didn't think there was anything wrong with it at all. In short, he wanted to consume Jia Yan's power, and then take advantage of Jia Yan's strength to weaken and kill him in one fell swoop. I have to say that this orangutan creature, who looks stupid but is actually stupid, still has a little bit of brains. Of course, if he wanted to delay time and wear away Jia Yan's power, it could not be said to be an inaccurate method. Even a strong man with a normal mind would probably think of such a thing. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan didn't consume much in the subspace, and his evolved beast physique made his endurance and combat continuation ability completely surpass those of other creatures by an unknown amount. Therefore, this orangutan creature who wanted to implement such a combat plan against Jia Yan could be said to have completely failed to see the reality clearly and was thinking wildly. Even at this moment, he completely contributed to Jia Yan's rapid improvement in strength. One of those enlightenment pills is not enough. I want a few more. There are a total of 10 enlightenment pills in Jia Yan's hand. Although one pill is expensive for this human race, it is not astonishing. Otherwise, the Great Elder would not have said that he would give one to Jia Yan. But 10 of them are what even this human race needs to spend a lot of resources and money to achieve. If the bald man hadn't picked it up by mistake, Jia Yan would definitely not have been able to get so many enlightenment pills. And he didn't know that this enlightenment pill could only be taken once by a person, so at this moment, Jia Yan actually did something that if the humans of this ethnic group knew about it, they would definitely call him a prodigal, and it was their tribe that was ruined. Planted home. Jia Yan actually took out the enlightenment pill in the subspace again and directly absorbed it with his mouth parts. Very well, keep fighting. Jia Yan flew out of the subspace again. This time he made 2 more sneak attacks, and felt that with the help of the strange pills, his understanding of Tao, or another concept of the universe that he had never understood at all, suddenly increased a lot. Not enough. 1 more. Jia Yan suddenly returned to the subspace and took out another enlightenment pill. The enlightenment pill that others only need 1 pill and cannot be used again can be used continuously by Jia Yan. Roar. The orangutan-like creature only felt more and more pressure. Obviously at the beginning, he didn't know from which direction Jia Yan would attack, but gradually, Jia Yan was able to use extremely strange power every time, and his strength was close to him. But unfortunately, he didn't have any way to stop it. At this moment, his head was not in good shape, and he had some not so good thoughts. I want to leave. He thought of escaping again, but just as he was about to leave, a foot suddenly blocked his way out. After struggling for a few moves, he turned around and forgot about the idea of escape, and started a life and death battle with the feet, or the creatures that were occasionally exposed behind the feet. Very good. He was also driven to a dead end by me. It's not enough. I will continue to swallow this enlightenment pill. In the subspace, Jia Yan struck again and again, feeling that with the help of Wu Daoan, his attacks seemed to be vaguely consistent with some kind of cosmic principle. Each time, he was able to hit a more reasonable path. It is also much more powerful. In Jia Yan's opinion, this is not unexplainable, nor does the so-called Tao and science cannot be integrated. Because Tao, to put it bluntly, is just an explanation of the rules of the universe. It's just that these rules are an explanation of power. And science can explain this Tao. It's not that there is anything wonderful about this Tao. It's just that it has gone so far in understanding power. It's just a mysterious situation. If Jia Yan didn't have the enlightenment pill in his hand, he still doesn't know how long it would take to understand the yin and yang Tao. Moreover, this enlightenment pill can only be used once by others, but for Jia Yan, it can be taken continuously. But there is a limit to this. When Jia Yan swallowed 8 pills, the effect was already minimal. When he finally swallowed all 10 enlightenment pills, their help to Jia Yan completely disappeared and had no effect at all. Sure enough, there are limits, even if he is an evolved beast. But the effect of 10 pills is already enough. Jia Yan only felt that the world was completely different before his eyes. His power was still at the mid-level of a star, but in his eyes, the world almost changed into something else. Just like looking at an orangutan creature, Jia Yan found that the other person in his eyes seemed to have dotted lines all over his body. Although the dotted line would move at any time, Jia Yan felt that as long as you catch the time and hit the dotted line or point, wherever he is, he can kill this orangutan creature with 1 blow, or seriously injure him. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1493. Is this the Tao? And it seems to be a little consistent with my yin and yang Tao. I feel that if I am given a certain amount of time, my yin and yang Tao will also have great changes. In this way, my yin and yang Tao will also have great benefits. The strength is completely higher than before. Jia Yan did not expect that he would receive such a huge improvement in strength in such a short time in this world. Even if he leaves this world and enters the real universe, he will regain his brainwave power and other strength. The help of Tao may not be as great as it was in this world, but it can definitely increase his strength by 3 to 5 times in an instant. You know, that's 3 to 5 times. Even if it was 3 times the minimum he expected to block, how strong would he be if he was able to block a single blow from a God Emperor without dying in the hands of a God Emperor? Even if you can't defeat a God Emperor, you can expect a draw with him, right? Thinking of this, Jia Yan was so excited that he almost screamed. His strength, at this moment, improved to an unknown extent. And in this world, the universal strength is Dao. Most of his previous strength was blocked. Now with this Dao, his strength will be almost completely unblocked, and even improved a lot, so that he can display it. All the frightening strength. Haha, tell me not to hide, right? Come then. Jia Yan suddenly stopped fighting in the space and flew out of the subspace. Puff. The attacks from both sides clashed suddenly for a moment. In this moment of confrontation, Jia Yan's front feet directly turned into a blue color. The extremely hard front feet, coupled with the power of the Tao he had just comprehended, caused his strength to suddenly increase several times. Boom! The sound of the two sides attacking each other spread throughout the surrounding woods at this moment. What? The two kept fighting, and Jia Yan was unable to take down the orangutan creature for a while, but with every blow, his strength would explode. Instead, he is getting familiar with the understanding of Tao and the feeling of fighting. So this dotted line is meant to be used like this. The feeling of judging the dotted line is like this. I was wrong just now. While Jia Yan was fighting, he became more and more familiar with the so-called Tao he had comprehended. To him, all this is like a powerful child using weapons to fight for the first time. Every time there will be new discoveries and new improvements in strength. And that orangutan-like creature, because its brain is too stupid, has no idea what Jia Yan is doing. He kept fighting, feeling relatively smooth at first, but as he fought, he felt more and more depressed. Even in the later stages, the power he was proud of had almost no effect in front of Jia Yan. Boom! The two sides exchanged blows, and the huge orangutan creature suddenly flew backwards under Jia Yan's blow. You want to die? Kill my brother and beat me. You want to die? The orangutan creature was finally completely furious. He suddenly used all his fighting power and struck hard at Jia Yan, who had just stepped out of the subspace and was about to continue his combat training. For him, his current strength has reached the peak level, and he only has so many attack methods. If Jia Yan can't be killed with this blow, then he is finished. There is no other way to fight, not even the strength. It can no longer be used so huge. His plan just now was to grind Jia Yan to death, but what he didn't expect was that he would be the first to be unable to hold on. At this moment, Jia Yan saw the orangutan creature showing all-out fighting against him. I couldn't help but shake my head. He knew that a creature with a brain problem was a creature with a brain problem. Because he had a brain problem, it was impossible for Jia Yan to learn anything through him. After all, his moves are limited. However, it can be said that Jia Yan gained some understanding after the initial period of time because of this orangutan creature with brain problems, and even because of him, he may have to fight many strong men in the future to discover some insights. Details. This kind of relatively untactical fighter is an excellent training target for a person who has just realized the Tao. If it weren't for the fact that it was impossible to control him, Jia Yan would really want to control him and practice with him for a while. But it's impossible now. This strong man has used all his strength, so it's impossible for Jia Yan to hold back. And he doesn't have too many opportunities to practice, after all, that's all his strength is. Let me die. I think it's you who dies. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then suddenly moved forward. Puff. The orangutan creature was completely unpredictable that Jia Yan's speed would suddenly become so much faster. In his opinion, the fighting power of Jia Yan just now was about the same as his. Even though he knew that Jia Yan might have some back UPS, he could never see that this creature was so much more powerful than him. You are despicable. This orangutan creature had no idea what method Jia Yan was using, but he felt that Jia Yan was using him for something. But there is a front foot stuck in his chest. After saying these words, Jia Yan's brainwave power, combined with the power of Tao he had just obtained, suddenly exploded directly in his body. With a loud bang, the orangutan creature that had been running amok for an unknown length of time exploded to death. From the battle to now, Jia Yan has been entangled with this orangutan creature for a while. With him, Jia Yan is actually as strong as the two brothers and has been fighting for at least 10 minutes. Haha, good job. Even if you retain your strength, Your Excellency Jia Yan is still so powerful. Just after Jia Yan defeated this orangutan-like creature, the elder who was fighting with the leader of the ape clan on the other side actually noticed the outcome of his battle and burst into laughter. I'll go, I don't want to be so conspicuous. Can't the great elder pay less attention to me? Jia Yan's heart skipped a beat. He was really not happy about attracting attention. You must know that the great elder may think that even Jia Yan's strength just now is reserved, but Jia Yan himself knows that if he had not understood the power of Tao, he would probably die when he faced the two strong men of the ape clan just now. Of course, Jia Yan also understood that this was the great elder's deliberate lies, making the people of the ape clan think that Jia Yan was helping them humans, and this would put some high-end power on Jia Yan, which would greatly relieve the pain of others. Pressure from the human race. Humph, this guy actually dares to kill two of our most promising children. Come and die. Just when Jia Yan was thinking that, just as Jia Yan expected, a banging sound came from a direction not far away from Jia Yan. Get out of my way. This shocking power made Jia Yan completely shocked. You must know that existences at the level of the Great Elder are powerful, but there are too many levels between them and Jia Yan. If Jia Yan wants to reach their level, at least there are still several hurdles to pass. And what is attacking now is a strong man who is closer to the Great Elder and others among these passes. Snort. Jia Yan's expression changed for a while, and then he suddenly used his super strength. The two sides fought explosively in the air. Hey, your strength seems pretty good. The creature was able to annihilate Jia Yan with a direct attack from him, and he was instantly shocked. But he was shocked, and Jia Yan was also shocked, because according to his true strength, this blow would be difficult to block, but at this moment, he actually blocked the opponent's attack, and even had a feint counter-attack means. Haha, you underestimate Jia Yan too much. He is a being that can be compared with us. You actually think that you can deal with Jia Yan? It's ridiculous. When the creature was extremely surprised that Jia Yan could block his attack, the Great Elder's voice suddenly came again. Oh no, Great Elder, this is so wrong. Why did you push me into the fire pit? Jia Yan was almost furious. You must know that the Great Elder said such words, which was equivalent to indirectly helping Jia Yan to create enemies. After all, his true strength has not reached the level of the Great Elder. If he keeps saying this, then Jia Yan will be targeted by other strong men. It is a pity that in this world, Jia Yan does not have such magical power and cannot reach the Great Elder instantly, so there is no way to stop him from slandering Jia Yan. Humph, is he such a terrible enemy? Wait a minute, second brother, I will support you. When the Great Elders were saying that Jia Yan's strength was terrifying, among the ape race with relatively sufficient manpower, an ape creature with good strength suddenly appeared and suddenly charged towards the place where Jia Yan was. 2. Well, the Great Elder is really trying to trick me. A flash of anger suddenly flashed across Jia Yan's expression. Of course, the Great Elder always thought that Jia Yan was as powerful as him, and he had paid such a heavy price just now, so Jia Yan should help, but his mistake was that he should not make arbitrary decisions and put the enemy at risk. Aspects leading to Jia Yan. To Jia Yan, this seemed like an impossible move by Yuan Liang. Originally, he was still thinking that if his understanding could be one step closer, he might actually help this race in this war, but now it seems that it is impossible for Jia Yan to do that. Withdraw. At this moment, Jia Yan made a decision. For him, this place where human beings are ordinary has nothing to do with it. Coupled with the coldness of the great elder, he doesn't like it here even more. Instead of helping them, it is better to leave early. Fortunately, he has been able to freely enter the subspace, but the time of entering is very short, and the existence of the 10 pills on his body has become less and less. After a while, the effect of the pills is completely lost, then at that time, he could only use the power of Tao that Jia Yan's body had just realized to activate the space talent this time. It might be difficult to open even a channel, let alone fight like now without fear of releasing his own power. Method. Puff. When the rushing ape creature hit the place where Jia Yan was standing, he was just happy for a moment, but he heard the star-level ape creature behind him suddenly shouted. His heart trembled. He quickly stepped back. As a result, at the same time as he left, Jia Yan's sharp long foot suddenly pierced his original location. Debris from the trees flew. It turned out that Jia Yan had just hid in the subspace when he attacked and returned to his familiar fighting routine. His combat effectiveness instantly increased rapidly as if the tide had risen. Of course, the actual level improvement may be more than Jia Yan imagined. Because he also realized the Tao thing, even if it was just a temporary thing under the pill, it was of great help to his strength. But his counterattack doesn't seem to be that powerful at all. Let's move on. Several besieged ape creatures saw that Jia Yan, even if he used the weird sneak attack mode of hiding in the subspace, was still unable to hurt the one among them who was not too strong. After being of the same clan, everyone was overjoyed and everyone swarmed over. You know, ape creatures are generally bully and afraid of the strong, even among the strong. Seeing these ape creatures rushing towards them so desperately, Jia Yan's expression changed slightly. I'm afraid you won't succeed. It just so happens that with your charge, you will be regarded as my other best training opponents. Jia Yan sneered in his heart and was about to take action. A group of people couldn't help but know that they were about to become Jia Yan's masters and become stronger opponents of the ape clan. Suddenly, a little hand stretched out from behind them. It is said to be a small hand because on the surface, it looks extremely delicate, like the palm of a child. But to say he is young would be completely wrong. This little hand is as huge as the world. Even if 10 Jia Yan stood there vertically, they could not compare with the length of such a child's hand. In other words, such a palm is many times bigger than Jia Yan. What is this? Oh my God, this is a tribe of giants. Hey, won't the giants come to our place? One by one, the forest human race suddenly roared in shock. They all also saw that outside the branch where Jia Yan was fighting, there was a head as huge as a star with big eyes, looking at the fighting circle. And like a child, he slowly grabbed his small palm directly towards the two ape creatures fighting Jia Yan. Ah, giant clan, my God. When they felt the small palms quickly grabbing at their backs, the several ape creatures who were about to fight Jia Yan were so frightened that they almost ran away in all directions.